Hello, Razimatrez here. Today I'm going to go through the changes to skills and skill power that came out in the last release of the PTS for the Division. That was PTS 4. Just a few notes before I get started. This is obviously still subject to change, but it does reflect what was in PTS on the day it was shut down. I grabbed these screenshots about 2 hours before the shutdown. Skill power and skills scale now, depending on which world tier you're in. So everything in this is for tier 5 only. If you're in a lower tier, this won't apply. Frankly, nobody should be playing in a tier below 5 for more than a couple of hours anyways, unless they like playing in easy mode. Anyways, let's jump right into it. I'm going to start with the signature skills. So not much has changed to the signature skills. Nothing to scaling. Cooldowns are increased across the board, both at low and high skill power. The only skill that was actually changed is Recovery Link. It's been nerfed. Actually, it's been nerfed quite significantly. So the instant heal is now only 40% instead of the 50% that it was before. And instead of getting 100% heal over 12 seconds, it's only 80%. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you were using it to face tank heavies, it can make a big deal. When it auto-pops and they keep shooting you, they can still knock that 40% down. There were more than one time where I died trying to play like that and expecting my SIG to bail me out. You're going to have to play just a little bit more careful. Alright, moving on to the tech skills, mainly damage, crowd control, etc. Sticky Bomb. So, Proximity Fuse mod has been replaced with Disruptor, and it also has a larger radius of 9 meters instead of 6.25. It doesn't do any damage, but it uses EMP to disrupt everything in the area. This is basically built for people to blow up Seeker Mines when playing PvP. The rest of the modifications in the Sticky Bomb class are the same. Flashbang also does no damage now, though. So, at very low skill power, damage output from all of the sticky bombs is significantly reduced, and cooldowns are significantly longer. At high skill power, though, damage is a lot higher. For example, a BFB at 300,000 skill power would have done about 500k damage. Now it's going to do 800k damage. That said, cooldowns are slower even at high skill power, so you can't fire them off as often. Moving on to the turret. The only change to turrets are that the Zapper mod no longer does any damage. Instead, it just has the shock effect. And on the active sensor mod, range has been decreased from 35 to 25 meters. Lifetime hasn't been changed for any mods. Now, at low skill power, where most of us played previous to this patch, damage is reduced across the board for turrets, and cooldowns are increased while the health of your turret is actually lower. At high skill power, damage is significantly increased. It can even be doubled in some mods, except for Dragon's Breath, which is only increased a bit. I think it's around 15%. Cooldowns are still slower, even at high skill power, and it looks like they reach a cap where 35 seconds is the minimum. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't have time to try and bump my skill power even higher to get that down, but it looked like they capped out at 35-second minimum. Now, Seeker Mines. There are no new mods, there are no changes to the radius, the detection range, or the lifetime of a Seeker Mine. At low skill power, damage will be reduced significantly, especially for clusters, which is way weaker and has no stagger effect. But according to the patch notes, has a larger bleed effect. I never actually got a chance to test this, and I heard that they were considering getting rid of that one. But right now, it has stagger gone, larger bleed, way less damage. Health is also far weaker, and cooldowns are far longer if you are at low skill power. Now, at high skill power, damage is heavily increased, up to 80% increase, except for the cluster, which is still far weaker. Cooldown time caps at a minimum of 27.5 seconds. Based on what I got, I'm not entirely sure if that's actually a hard cap, because I didn't have time to test. This was right before PTS ended. But that number seems far too round to not be a cap. Alright, moving on to the defensive skills. We'll start with the Ballistic Shield. There are no changes to damage increase, no changes to damage resistance, no changes to threat across the board for all 5 mods, or 4 mods. At low skill power, health is significantly lower and cooldowns are just a little bit slower. At high skill power, health is increased a fair amount and cooldowns are still longer. Moving on to smart cover. There are no changes to range or lifetime, but everything else is changed across the board on all the mods. So at low SP, damage resistance is lower, but stability and accuracy are slightly higher for all modifications. And at high skill power, damage resistance is still lower. Anyhow, stability and accuracy are actually lower also if you have high skill power. So high skill power smart cover is completely nerfed. Every stat. Yeah. Moving on to mobile cover. Weapon resistance and blast resistance are the same except for the Blast Shield mod, which gets its weapon resistance bumped up to 20% from the 18%. That's just to make it match the rest of the shields. At low skill power, mobile cover shield health is significantly lower, and cooldowns are far longer, except for the extension mod, whose cooldown is only raised a little bit to match the others. Now, all of the mobile cover cooldowns are the same. Blast Shield also does less blast damage at low skill power, but at high skill power, shield health is way, way higher. The extension mod is as high as 4 million health, which is kind of insane. Cooldowns are still longer, and it looks like there's a cap on the minimum cooldown of around 35 seconds. So, again, cooldowns longer across the board. Blast shield damage is also way higher, and it can actually get pretty close to high enough to one-hit kill an enemy in PvP. If I guess it's not one hit, but if they've taken a little bit of damage, it can knock them out if they happen to be right in front of the shield. So moving on to medical skills. Pulse is in there. I'm not sure why it's in the medical class, but whatever. Range and duration are untouched for all of the modifications to Pulse, but at low skill power, Pulse is, well, it's basically just trash. So crit chance and crit damage are both nerfed almost into the ground, while the cooldowns are longer. So if you're using Pulse at low skill power, it's pretty much just a scan to find your enemies. It's not really a skill to help you do more damage. I mean, it'll do a little bit, I think 7% crit and 7% crit chance, but not a whole lot more. On the other hand, at high skill power, crit chance and crit damage are both increased. The increase is more significant on the base and the recon pack mod than it is on the scrambler or the tactical scanner mods, though. And given that the cooldown on the recon pack is quite a bit shorter than tactical scanner, it might be worth running recon pack instead of tac scanner, especially for PvE content. Right, now, a little aside before we get into the heal skills, we need to stop and discuss the changes to armor, because it completely overshadows any change to the heal skills. So in 1.6, there will be no armor mods. None whatsoever at all. So that means that if you have max armor on all your pieces, your damage mitigation is only going to be around 31%. I think 32% would be about max. That means that to get 400,000 toughness, you need to have 276,000 health in your pool. In the vanilla game, it's fairly easy to get 55% damage mitigation. And to get 400,000 toughness with that damage mitigation, you only need 180,000 health to hit that same 400k toughness level. So what that means is, in the vanilla version, a 90k heal can heal half of your bar at 400k toughness, but in PTS 1.6, that same 90k heal will only give you about 32% of your health bar. So that means that all heals are basically nerfed by about 36%. We'll call it a third, but mathematically 36% nerf to all heals across the board. Now, keeping that in mind, let's look at the first aid skills. So, first aid, the range and deployment range are untouched, except for the defibrillator. Its range has been bumped up from 3 meters to 3.5 meters. This is to get those revives when somebody misses the target by just a little bit, I guess. At low skill power, self and ally heal are reduced significantly, around 25% at minimum. And that's on top of the 36% nerf that applies to all heals. So basically, if you're running at 90,000 or less skill power, your heal skills are going to be 50% weaker. And the cooldowns are significantly longer. That's quite significant. Basically, a med pack will heal you for more than an overdose will. Now, at high skill power, heals are increased, but somebody running, call it a glass healer build, would only see about a 10 to 15% increase in ally and self-heal with any of the different first aid modifications. If you count that 36% nerf to all heals, that ends up meaning that even a 300k skill power user will have a 20% nerf to all of their heals. Cooldowns are also far longer even with high skill power, and based on my experience, look like they cap at a 35-second minimum, except for defib, which is a little bit shorter. Moving on to the support station, and this is the last one. Range on support station is reduced across the board. It's not a huge nerf, but it's there. Dropped from 8 meters to 7.5 meters. Revive time has now been moved to 5 seconds for all mods, when life support used to be 3 seconds. That's to keep people from quick reviving in PvP. At low skill power, healing rates are way, way lower across the board. Frankly, they're completely useless for actually healing. They're only good for the immunizer, ammo, or revives. And the device lifetime is far shorter, health is lower, and the cooldown is a little bit longer. It's not a lot longer at low skill power. Now, at high skill power, healing rates are higher across the board by about 11% when I was at 300k skill power. This is still a nerf because of the 36% nerf to all healing that was previously mentioned. The device lifetime and health, though, are significantly increased, but cooldowns are way, way longer. The one thing to note with the support station, though, is that Reclaimer, the set that was great back in 1.3, but became garbage in 1.4 and 1.5, is now going to have a 4-piece bonus that works with support stations. So if you have 4-piece Reclaimer, you get to have Immunizer and Ammo Station and Revive and Health all at the same time. So, although support station's been nerfed, it will still be quite usable if you have a Reclaimer on your team, and in fact has given itself a good niche position. Alright, so that's all the skills. Cooldown's nerfed across the board, everything takes longer to fire. What I should say about that, though, is skill haste looks like it's going to be a fairly large part of the meta going forward. So you can get skill haste up to 50%. That's been capped at 50%, and you can knock all these cooldowns in half. The other thing is talents on weapons will also make your skills recharge faster. So there's going to be some interaction there. If you want to keep your skills up fast, run the right talents, the right weapons, and you might be able to do that. So you can't look at skill power just by itself and say, oh my god, they wrecked the game. You just have to adjust the way you play to make it continue to work. But they have nerfed them significantly, especially the heals. So, with that in mind, thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again in the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.